You're at the GM meetings. What's the latest going on there? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of slow, I think, as it always is this time of year. People think that this is going to be an action packed week like the winter meetings are, and it really never is. There's a lot of guys here to golf at Shadow Creek. The awards are tonight. So it's a lot of like hanging out in the lobby and talking, but it's not a lot of news, as it never is in November. But, it sets the groundwork for the winter meetings in a month and the moves that'll happen between now and then.
Chris, first of all, by the way, you're not qualified for Boston College. It's above your pay grade. But
Thank you.
what about Craig Breslow? Craig Breslow went to, where'd he go, Yale?
Yale. Mm-hmm.
Yale. Okay, nailed it. Ex-teammate. And he said the Red Sox are going to be in a starting pitcher, but they're not going to spend a lot of money, and they're not going to be in the bullpen, and they don't want to trade, but they might trade. What the heck is he really saying? Can you explain it to me? Because we've talked about this now. He's like, we want a top 2 or top 1-2 starter. But we don't want to pay the heavy price, but we're willing to trade, but we're not. Like, can you explain this? Because I'm kind of confused by what he said.
Yeah, as he always tends to say, they are open to all opportunities to improve the team, and they're going to take nothing off the table, which is earth-shattering stuff whenever he does say it. But, I mean, I think they're going to be in on all the top trade candidates for starting pitchers, and I think they're going to be, like they were last year, in on all the free agents and see, who the fit is. A year ago they were in on Fried, and only after he signed with the Yankees did they really hone in on Crochet and get that done. They obviously need a bat, too, between either Schwarber or Alonso or somebody from the trade market, whatever it might be. So I think they, have the money to sign one free agent. Alex Bregman's money is off the books. Obviously, Devers is. Crochet's getting a massive raise on the CBT. Roman Anthony's getting a massive raise on the CBT, but there's still money to spend, and they still do have, a lot of good young players to get a trade done. So I think they're going to get one big name in the lineup, one big name in the starting rotation. And if you think about just the way resources work, probably makes sense that they do one of those guys via trade and one via free agency. I think, they're going to exceed the CBT again. If they don't, it's an insult to fans after, kind of the young core came up and took a big step last year. And a trade's going to be painful like it was with Crochet, but we saw, guy who finished second in Cy Young was an ace, capital A ace all year. They know it's worth it. They did it a year ago, and I think they'll be looking to do that again, whether it's Joe Ryan or somebody else like that.
If we were looking at the Red Sox at this time last year, has there been a seismic shift in how they're moving this organization? I mean, they got, like you said, they got rid of Devers. They actually spent some money. Now, it was a one-year deal on Bregman. They could have been on the hook for 2 more if he had really flopped. But is there a seismic shift, or is it really just kind of a slow bleed into this new regime?
I mean, I think they spent money by extending Crochet and extending Anthony. Those deals are probably going to be discounts by the end of them. I think with Anthony, it might already be 8 for 130 for a guy who is going to, potentially be a perennial all-star. But they are a flawed team. You saw that in the playoffs where they had Crochet in game 1, but they were so depleted at that point that Bayo didn't get past the second or the third inning in game 2, and then Giolito was hurt, and they had to go to a guy making his 5th major league start. So they want another horse to be able to pitch game 2 of a playoff game. They also struck out too much and didn't hit enough home runs, especially, against good opponents last year. And I think they need that thumper. Schwarber and Alonso are clear fits, but everybody could use those guys. I think that, they have, just by being around, seeing John Henry be there more in person, obviously still not talking to us because who would, but he was around the ballpark and he was a little bit more involved. He was a little bit more, there. And obviously he showed it, with a big payroll jump. The Devers thing to me, they didn't add Bregman and add Crochet's, future money and stuff, knowing that they were going to deal Devers. It became an untenable situation, and it happened to be with a guy who was getting paid, $30 million a year over 10. So they do have that money to spend, or at least part of it, and I think they owe it to the fans to do so. And I think they will. I don't think they're going to be with the Dodgers and Mets in terms of payroll, but I think they're going to be, past, potentially the second CBT is what I hope they do, because I think, again, the team played well enough to deserve it last year, and the fan base does after, the years of the full throttle promises and things like that. They did have a big offseason last year. It was spread out. Crochet was in December. Bregman was in February, but still they did a lot. And I think they'll do the same And I think Breslow is also setting high expectations. He's not saying we'll see how it goes. He's saying we need a thumper and we need a 1B in the rotation. Like, that's what we're going to aim for. And I think if he doesn't deliver on that, he knows the consequences, at least public perception wise.
Chris, you mentioned Joe Ryan. I was there the day after the trade deadline, did a game, Friday Night Baseball, and spoke to Craig Breslow. And he said that they had an agreement with the Twins. They were down to the wire. They thought they were going to get, potentially him. They're looking for a frontline starter. Do you think that those talks could pick up, or who do you think that they're targeting in terms of frontline starter?
I mean, he is the obvious guy. I think the kind of interesting part of that deadline day for the Red Sox and Twins was that the Red Sox thought they were on the 1 yard line on the Joe Ryan trade. The Twins didn't think that at all. The Twins I had somebody with the Twins tell me 20 minutes before the deadline, they're not even close with what they're offering. The Twins did not think that they were close to trading Joe Ryan to the Red Sox. The Red Sox thought they were closer than they were. And that, I think, could, they obviously talked names, and they all obviously had people that they liked in those trade talks. The Twins had a couple of guys, and the Red Sox had a couple of pitchers emerge late in the season, Tolle and Early, who I think one of them would have to probably be in that package. But you look around the league, there's more guys available than there were then, from Peralta and Milwaukee, potentially Green and Gore in Washington, with a guy in Paul Taboni who was just in Boston for the last 10 years. So between those guys and the guys on the free agent market, there's a lot of options for the Red Sox. I think, what they're aiming for is somebody who is better than Brian Bayo. Slide Bayo to be your number 3, figure out the 4 and 5 from a bunch of internal candidates, and then have the number 2, be a big name, whether that be Joe Ryan or any of the other 10 guys you could get this time of year.
Kratz Pop Quiz. What has 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, comes in excellent flavors like, of course, chocolate, vanilla, but chocolate peanut butter, my favorite, no added sugar, gluten-free, under $5 per meal, and is ready to drink?
Go out the house, get yourself a Huel. Look at you. You even have one right there. Ready to smack that, John? Chocolate peanut butter, chocolate, and vanilla. Deliciosos.
Also, there is a new daily greens ready to drink, 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories on that one, 4 grams of fiber. There's flavors like blueberry, apple, peach. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the code FOUL at huel.com/FOUL. Use that code FOUL and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT.
What about the defense? Are they going to be able to upgrade just from their internal options?
I mean, I think that's a reason not to sign Alonso, especially if he's intent on playing first. I know Boris said he was okay with DHing, but he's a guy that obviously the numbers are not good at first. You put him over there and your infield defense gets worse. Eugenio Suarez at third, that's kind of the same thing, right? So Bregman at third would be a stabilizing force again. It's interesting to me because the defense, leads the league in errors, and it's not good, and it's a problem. It costs them games. But you have 2 Gold Glovers in the outfield, and Rafaela and Abreu. You have Bregman and Story on the left side. So, what big changes? Obviously Bregman's a free agent at this point. Story's back. Where do you make those changes? To me, I would think about moving Story to second and getting a pretty good shortstop, defensive shortstop, wherever you can find that. Breslow kind of ruled that out the other day. An improvement at first base over kind of what they've run out the last couple of years. Alonso's not that. It's on paper, it's a good thing to improve the defense, but how do you do it with the pieces you already have? And I think that's an uphill battle, especially because, some of the lineup fits for them are not good defenders.
You said ruled out moving Story to second. He seemed pretty definitive that Story is staying at short. But Alex Bregman, you keep saying Bregman. Bregman is a free agent. He opted out.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? Do you know something we don't know?
No, I think Red Sox fans think that it's a lock that he comes back and a guarantee. I think that it's very much up in the air. Obviously, he's a guy they enjoyed having for a year, but I think some team is going to get into silly territory to put themselves over the edge, like a Seattle, or a Detroit or something like that, and gives him, a 6-year deal, or, maybe, I don't know, extends it to a 7-year deal to secure the player without the qualifying offer attached. And I think the Red Sox are going to be disciplined with that. I don't think it's going to be a blank check as much as they loved him. And I think they could get outbid, and that would really, throw the offseason for a loop, because I think he is, one of the top priorities. I was just saying, like there is, even with him and Story on the left side of the infield, 2 veterans stabilizing forces, the defense was still bad as a whole. So to me, the question is like, how do you improve that over, having a guy like Bregman, who a year ago had won the Gold Glove, and a guy like Story, who is thought of as a good defender, who kind of is in decline with that. So it's an easier thing, like I said, to say, let's make the defense better. But how do you do it? That's a tough question.
Alex Cora will be on next week, and every time I talk to Alex Cora, right-handed power. Bregman's great. Pete Alonso. Can we talk Pete Alonso? How good would he look going up there, mashing 40 homers, driving in 100, playing 162 games every year for the Red Sox?
Yeah, I mean, I think that works in the lineup. But the thing with first base, if they look at him that way, obviously the range and the numbers that, Boris kind of dismissed yesterday but are real, should give them concern. And also, like, you have Tristan Casas, who I don't think he, at this point, has proven that he's going to be able to hold that starting job, but he still has a lot of upside, and the organization appreciates it, acknowledges that. And you have Yoshida still under contract, and you have too many outfielders in spots, and you need to probably DH one of those guys. So to me, it's like there's going to be a hard decision somewhere. And I think they're going to try to find that perfect world where they need a power hitting first baseman who's also great defensively. If you could find that guy and plug him in, that's perfect. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be able to. So, is it you trade Yoshida and, pick up a lot of that salary and sign Alonso or Schwarber to be the DH and have Alonso play some first while Casas works his way back? There's a lot of different iterations of how that could go. Obviously they need more power. Power wins playoff games. You look at who led them in home runs last year. Devers was like 5th or 6th on the team, or maybe like 4th, and he didn't play for them after June 15th. So that's a little striking. The guys like Abreu can hit it out, Story, but those guys are streaky, as we know. So I do think they need that, consistent power bat that, made Red Sox teams so great in the past, especially with where they play.
Sorry.
I want to know why there's not more Kyle Schwarber back to the Red Sox talk.
Left-handed, Heidi. Left-handed. They need right-handed.
He hits lefties as good as he hits righties, though, which I think makes it a possibility. Yeah, I mean, I am team Schwarber over Alonso, and I think
everyone is. Well, not everyone.
But another guy Cora loves from when he was here in 2021, and he was, amazing for them down the stretch and in the playoffs. A great leader, cultural fit. I think, with that, there's more doubt that the Phillies let him walk compared to, the Mets not re-signing Alonso. I think. You talk to people here, and they're like, Dave Dombrowski doesn't let guys get away, and the Red Sox are hoping their old friend does let this guy get away. I think Schwarber would be great. He was in that 2021 stretch, but both of them, I think, pros and cons for sure.